In 1963, a woman named Wong Siu Lan stood in a kitchen the size of a closet on Sai Yung Choi Street in Kowloon, Hong Kong. She fed 6 children on a handful of salted fish, 3 cups of rice, and water she had already used once to wash the vegetables. That meal is number 12 on this list. Number 7, it is a soup so old it predates the Ming Dynasty. Number 1, kept entire villages alive through a famine that history books barely mention. Now, this is not medical advice, and I am not telling you to change what you eat. This is just a look at how things used to be. Hi, my name is Jason, and this is Lost. This channel exists because somebody has to say it. The meals your grandparents cooked, the ones that smelled up the whole apartment building, the ones that had no recipe card, no measuring cup, no timer. Those meals are disappearing. Not slowly, fast, one funeral at a time. Number 25. Congee with century egg and salted pork. 1 cup of rice. 10 cups of water. Bring it to a boil, drop the flame as low as it goes, and walk away for an hour. The grains dissolved. They gave up their shape and became something between soup and comfort that coated the stomach like nothing else could. A century egg, black and trembling. A handful of salted pork, shredded fine. Both went in at the end. White pepper, sesame oil. Done. In Cantonese homes across Hong Kong and Singapore in the 1970s, they called it juk. Never congee. Congee is a restaurant word. Juk is what your grandmother made on cold mornings, sick days, and mornings after grief. The instant packet version tastes like warm cardboard. The real thing tastes like someone decided you were worth an hour. Those are not the same thing. Number 24. Steamed egg with soy sauce. 3 eggs, warm water, a pinch of salt, a lid. Your grandmother did not measure the ratio. She cracked the eggs, looked at the bowl, and poured water until it looked right. 10,000 repetitions made looking right the same as being right. Place the bowl into a wok over simmering water, cover it, and steam for 12 minutes. When you set the plate down, it trembled. Silken and cool, and perfectly flat. A splash of soy sauce, a few drops of sesame oil, and it is done. In Shanghai and Hangzhou in the 1960s, steamed egg was the first solid food given to babies and the last food made for elders who could no longer chew. One dish served both ends of a life. It tasted too good to be poverty food. That was exactly the trick. Number 23. Stir-fried water spinach with fermented tofu. A bunch of water spinach from the wet market cost almost nothing. A jar of NAM white fermented tofu cost a few dollars and lasted a month. 1 cube mashed with a spoon, a splash of the brine from the jar. That was your sauce. The wok had to be screaming hot. That is the part nobody tells you. Spinach goes in fast, tossed hard. Then the fermented tofu is pushed in after. 30 seconds of heat and smoke, and the smell that made your neighbors knock on the wall. Across Guangdong and Fujian, this appeared on the table twice a week, minimum. The fermented tofu turned a weed from a drainage ditch into something you ate with 3 bowls of rice. Young Chinese Americans call it an acquired taste. Their great-grandmothers would say you acquire it the first time you are hungry enough. Number 22. Braised peanuts with star anise. Raw peanuts in their shells, water, star anise, soy sauce, sugar, and a strip of dried tangerine peel. The pot barely simmered for 2 hours. Nothing was measured. The color of the liquid told you when the soy was enough. The smell told you when the star anise had finished its work. You ate them cold, cracked from the shell with your teeth. They were soft, savory, faintly sweet, with that deep anise perfume underneath. In rural Hunan and Sichuan in the 1970s, a grandmother made a pot on Sunday and ate from it until Wednesday. They kept well. The only request was that you sit somewhere and shell them slowly, one at a time. Nobody hurries braised peanuts. That is the entire point of braised peanuts. Number 21. Salted fish with minced pork. Steamed over rice. Ground pork pressed flat on a plate. A piece of salted fish, miu hung, the inexpensive kind, laid on top. Soy sauce, a drizzle of oil, a few slices of ginger. The whole plate went on top of the rice in the cooker for the last 15 minutes. The steam did everything. Pork fat melted into the fish. Fish salt seasoned the pork. The liquid ran off the plate and soaked down into the rice. Every grain at the bottom of the pot tasted like the sea. In fishing villages along the Pearl River Delta in the 1950s, salted fish was not an ingredient. It was currency. A piece that cost 20 cents could flavor a week of meals. Your grandmother understood the economics of salt and protein in a way no nutritionist has ever published a paper about. Number 20. Old cucumber soup. The old cucumber was yellow, not green. If it was green, it was not ready. You left it on the vine until the skin turned yellow, the seeds grew large, and the flesh softened. Then, it went into the pot. Pork bones blanched and rinsed. Yellow cucumber, seeded and chunked. Dried red dates. A strip of tangerine peel. Water. 4 hours on a low flame. In Cantonese households, this soup was medicine before it was dinner. The old cucumber cleared heat from the body, cooled a fever from the inside out. Whether a laboratory agrees is not the point. Your grandmother believed it. She made the soup, and the soup was ready when you needed it. That pot was an act of love dressed as a vegetable. Number 19. Braised pork belly with preserved mustard greens. Pork belly simmered whole, then press skin side down into hot oil until the skin blistered and turned the color of mahogany. Sliced thin, it was layered in a bowl with preserved mustard greens, stir-fried in sugar and soy sauce. Then it went into the steamer for 90 minutes. When it came out, it was inverted onto a plate. The pork fanned out in a dome. The greens spilled over the edges. The fat had melted into the greens. The greens had climbed into the fat. In Hakka households from Maxian to Sabah in Malaysia, this appeared at every wedding, every Lunar New Year table, every gathering that mattered. It cost almost nothing to make and looked like it cost a fortune. That is the engineering of Chinese poverty cooking. It does not look like poverty. It was never supposed to. Number 18. Tofu with 1,000-year egg and ginger. Silken tofu is turned out of its package onto a plate. 2-century eggs peeled and sliced. Young ginger, finely shredded. Soy sauce is poured over the top. Sesame oil, done. No heat. 4 minutes from refrigerator to table. This was the dish she made when her knees hurt and the flame felt like too much. She slid the tofu from the package the way you slide a letter from an envelope, and the plate was almost ready. The century egg shocked people who had never eaten one. Dark green center, translucent gray-black white. It looked like something had gone very wrong. It tasted like something had gone exactly right, rich and deep and sulfurous, in a way that made the cold tofu and sharp ginger snap into focus. No measuring, no cooking, just knowing. Number 17. Rice water soup. Grandmother's reserved drink. After the rice was cooked, the milky, starchy water left in the pot was not thrown away. It was never thrown away. It was poured into a cup and given to the youngest child, the oldest person, or the one who was sick. Rice water. That is the whole recipe. Starchy, thin, faintly sweet from the grain. In Fujian and Zhejiang, in the 1950s, when there was not enough rice to fill every bowl, the children drank rice water from a cup while the adults ate. They were told it was a special drink, reserved only for them. The children believed it. The adults kept their faces still. Today, someone is selling it in a bottle for $12. Your grandmother poured it from a pot and called it love, and never charged anyone a single cent. Number 16. Smashed cucumber salad with garlic and chili. You laid the cucumber on the board and hit it with the flat of the cleaver. Hard. It split and cracked and gave up its clean green smell all at once. Then you tore it with your hands, salted it, and let it sit 10 minutes while the salt drew out the water. Garlic, smashed and minced. Dried chili, torn. Black vinegar. Sesame oil. Sometimes a pinch of sugar. Tossed together once the salt water was squeezed out. In Beijing and across northern China, this appeared on the table every summer. Not optional, just present. A cut cucumber and a smashed cucumber absorb sauce completely differently. The rough torn edges pull the dressing in. Your grandmother did not read a food science paper to understand this. The cleaver told her what the cucumber needed. Number 15. Steamed pork ribs with black bean and garlic. Small cut pork ribs marinated in fermented black beans, garlic, soy sauce, oyster sauce, sugar, and cornstarch. Everything mixed with your hands, no spoon. You squeeze the marinade into the meat the way you knead dough, working the black beans into every crevice. 30 minutes in the marinade, then onto a shallow plate, into the steamer. 20 minutes over a roaring boil. In Hong Kong tenement kitchens in the 1960s, the whole building smelled of fermented black beans on Sunday morning. You could map the entire floor by smell. If someone at your dim sum table ever said it was not as good as grandmother's, they were right. Hers came from hands that had made it 300 times. The restaurant version came from a kitchen with a timer. Number 14. Longevity noodles in broth. One bundle of dried wheat noodles, long and uncut. Never cut. Not on a birthday, not ever. A simple broth of soy sauce and pork bones had been simmering on the back burner since morning. An egg poached directly in the broth, the white set, the yolk still soft. A drizzle of sesame oil. You lifted the noodle with chopsticks and lowered it into your mouth without breaking it. Breaking the noodle shortened your life, or so the tradition said. Nobody questioned this. You just did not break the noodle. In families across Shandong and Jiangsu, longevity noodles appeared on every birthday from the first to the last. For a grandmother cooking alone in Melbourne, or Toronto, or New York, making this on her own birthday was not a sad act. It was a declaration. Another year, still here. Number 13. Egg fried rice with soy sauce. Yesterday's rice, cold from the refrigerator, each grain separate and dry. 2 eggs cracked directly into the cold rice and mixed through with chopsticks before the wok ever got hot. Oil, screaming hot. Rice in fast. Spread it, leave it 20 seconds until the bottom toasted, then toss hard. Soy sauce along the edge of the wok, not on the rice. Along the edge, so it hit the hot metal and caramelized in the half second before it reached the grain. The smell of that moment was the whole meal. In Cantonese households, this was not a fallback meal. It was proof of skill. Anyone can make fried rice with 15 ingredients. A grandmother who made it with 2 and had you eating 3 bowls, that was mastery. The recipe apps will tell you the ingredients. They will not teach you the heat. Number 12. Salted fish, congee. Wang Xulan made this in 1963. A small piece of salted fish, the cheapest variety from the bottom shelf of the dried goods shop on the corner. Broken into the congee pot at the end, not the beginning, so it dissolved just enough to flavor the broth without disappearing. A scallion, sliced thin. White pepper. In Guangdong fishing villages in the 1940s and the 1950s, this was eaten twice a day during lean months, morning and night. The rice stretched further as congee. The salted fish made it taste like more than it was. A full pot cost less than 10 cents and fed a family of 6. If you grew up eating this and never stopped to think about what that meant, sit with that for a moment. Sit with it. Number 11. Winter melon soup with dried scallop, Dried scallops soaked overnight. The soaking water was reserved and never discarded. It was the beginning of the broth. Pork ribs were blanched and rinsed. Winter melon was cut into thick wedges, the skin left on because the skin held the pieces together through the long cooking. Everything went into the pot. 2 hours on a low flame. The scallops dissolved slowly into the broth. The winter melon turned translucent and gave off a gentle sweetness. The broth went golden. At banquets, this soup was served inside a carved winter melon shell. That version was for celebrations. The home version was for Tuesday. The home version tasted better. It always does. A restaurant has a reputation to maintain. A grandmother has a grandchild to feed. Those are different motivations, and they produce different soups. Number 10. Stir-fried tomato and egg. 2 tomatoes cut into wedges. 3 eggs beaten with a pinch of salt. Eggs go into the hot wok first, stirred fast until barely set, broken into soft pieces and lifted out. More oil, tomatoes in. A pinch of sugar. Essential. It balanced the acid. When the tomatoes softened and released their juice, the eggs went back in. 30 seconds. Done. This dish exists in every province of China and every country where Chinese families settled. It is the first dish most Chinese children learn to cook, and the dish most Chinese adults name when asked what comfort food means. 8 minutes. Almost nothing in cost. Tastes like childhood and like someone who knew you were coming home hungry. If Chinese cooking had a national dish, and I know that is a wild thing to say about a country with 56 ethnic groups, it might be this: 2 tomatoes, 3 eggs, a grandmother who measured nothing. Number 9. Red bean soup, thickened by time. Dried red beans, soaked overnight. The next day, simmered with dried tangerine peel and rock sugar until the beans softened. Some of them burst open, and the broth turned deep brick red, thick with starch and sweetness. No cream, no flour. The beans thickened their own broth with nothing but time and heat. In Cantonese households, this was the dessert that ended every home-cooked dinner and every Sunday lunch. Warm in winter, sometimes chilled in summer. A pot cost almost nothing and lasted 3 days. Your grandmother believed it was good for the blood. Whether that is clinically accurate does not matter. What matters is that she thought of your blood when she made it. She stood at that stove for 45 minutes because she wanted your blood to be good. That is the whole recipe. Number 8. Steamed fish with ginger and scallion. A whole fish cleaned. 2 cuts on each side, down to the bone. Ginger sliced thin, pushed into the cuts, and scattered on top. Into the steamer for 8 minutes. Your grandmother did not use a timer. She listened. When it was done, the liquid pooled in the plate was poured off and discarded. Too fishy, too strong. Then came the ceremony. Scallion shredded fine, piled on top. Boiling oil poured directly over the scallion. The scallion screamed. The perfume hit the ceiling. Soy sauce poured around the fish, not on it. In coastal families from Fujian to Guangdong, steamed whole fish was the centerpiece of any meal worth having. The timing, the oil temperature, the exact moment of pouring, that knowledge took years to build. The fish told you when it was done. You had to know how to listen. Number 7. 4 Treasure Congee. This soup predates the Ming Dynasty. Congee with peanuts, dried lily buds, ginkgo nuts, and dried bean curd sticks, all simmered together until the rice dissolved and the ingredients softened. And the whole pot became something ancient and nourishing that no English word properly describes. Peanuts brought richness. Lily buds brought a floral earthiness. Ginkgo nuts brought a slight bitter depth. Bean curd sticks dissolved at the edges and thickened the broth. Your grandmother added them in order of cooking time, not consulting a clock, feeling the texture of each ingredient as she stirred. In Buddhist temple kitchens in Guangdong, and Fujian. Variations of this congee were served to monks as the morning meal for centuries. No meat, no strong flavors. Just the grain, the earth, and the patience of a low flame. In the 1970s in Hong Kong, a grandmother on a tight pension might make this on the days before market day, when the fresh ingredients were gone and the pantry held only dry goods. The dry goods were never nothing. In her hands, the dry goods were everything. Number 6. Pork bone and lotus root soup. Pork bones blanched in boiling water and rinsed. Lotus root cut crosswise into thick rounds. The cross-section of a lotus root is one of the most beautiful things in a kitchen. A pale wheel with perfect holes is arranged like a flower. Your grandmother would hold it up to the window sometimes just to look. Into the pot with the pork bones went water and a few dried red dates. Simmer for 3 hours on a low flame until the lotus root softened and turned from white to beige, and the broth deepened into something that coated the back of a spoon. In Hubei province, where the best lotus root in China is grown, this soup was made from October through February. Every household in the region had their own timing, their own ratio of root to bone to water. None of them measured. None of them needed to. The soup was believed to nourish the lungs, calm the spirit, and strengthen the blood. A grandmother made it for a child before an exam. She made it for herself on the nights she missed home. She made it because she knew how, and the knowing was worth keeping. Number 5. Fermented black bean spare ribs with rice. This was the lunchbox meal, the one your grandfather carried to the factory in a metal tin in 1968, the one your mother opened at her school desk in 1974, the one that made the whole classroom smell like home and made the other children say things that your mother never repeated when she got older. Spare ribs cut small, marinated overnight in fermented black beans, garlic, oil, soy sauce, and a little sugar. In the morning, the tin went on top of the rice cooker. By the time the rice was done, the ribs were steamed through. The black bean sauce had reduced and thickened and coated every piece. One tin, one lunch. Enough protein and fat and salt to carry a body through the afternoon. In Cantonese factory towns in the 1960s and 70s, this lunchbox was the meal of workers who could not go home for lunch and could not afford a restaurant. The quality of a worker's lunch tin told you about his wife's kitchen. This meal told you his wife's kitchen was serious. Number 4. Cantonese braised tofu with minced pork. Firm tofu cut into thick squares and fried in oil until the outside crisped to gold, while the inside stayed cool and white. The pieces were removed and set aside. In the same oil, minced pork was cooked with garlic and ginger. Then soy sauce and oyster sauce were added, with a splash of water, a pinch of sugar, and a scatter of cornstarch stirred in to thicken. The fried tofu went back into the sauce. Everything braised together for 10 minutes on a medium flame. The tofu absorbed the sauce at its edges, while the inside stayed soft. It was served in the clay pot it was cooked in, still bubbling at the table. In Guangdong and Hong Kong in the 1970s and the 1980s, this clay pot dish appeared at family tables 3 or 4 times a week. Tofu cost almost nothing. A small amount of pork stretched across 6 portions. The clay pot held the heat long after it left the flame, so the last person to the table ate the same temperature food as the first. Your grandmother knew something about hospitality that no restaurant has ever successfully replicated. She made sure everyone's food was hot. All she needed was a clay pot and the patience to leave it on the flame exactly long enough. Number 3. Hand-torn cabbage with a dried chili. You did not cut the cabbage. You tore it with your hands into irregular pieces, each one slightly different in size and shape, each edge rough and ragged and ready to hold the sauce. Your grandmother knew that a knife left a clean edge that sauce slid off of. A torn edge pulled the sauce in. Torn, hot oil in a screaming wok. Dried red chilies and Sichuan peppercorns went in first, 15 seconds until fragrant. Then, the torn cabbage went in fast. Toss hard. The cabbage caught the smoke. A splash of black vinegar along the edge of the wok. A pinch of salt. 30 seconds total. Off the heat. Wok. The cabbage was still green, still had a bite, but the edges had charred slightly against the hot metal, and the Sichuan peppercorn had left a tingle that crept across the tongue slowly, the way a good memory does. In Sichuan and Hunan households, this dish appeared on the table in 10 minutes from an ingredient that cost almost nothing. The technique was everything. The same cabbage, cooked slowly in water, tasted like sadness. The same cabbage, in a screaming hot wok with smoke and chili and torn edges, tasted like dinner. Technique. Your grandmother tore it with her hands because her mother tore it with her hands. Nobody questioned it. The cabbage was better for it. Grandmother. Number 2. Savory rice porridge with peanuts and dried shrimp. This is not Cantonese juk. This is Teochew muai, and if you do not know the difference, your grandmother would like a word with you. Teochew rice porridge is not cooked until the grains dissolve. The grains stay whole. The water stays clear. The porridge is thin, almost brothy, and it is served alongside small dishes of intensely flavored accompaniments, not mixed in alongside. Each bowl of plain mui is accompanied by its own small world of flavors. Salted radish, dried shrimp, stir-fried with garlic, braised peanuts, a strip of salted fish, a half-preserved egg. You eat a spoonful of plain rice porridge and then a fragment of one of the side dishes, and the contrast between the plain and the intense is the whole meal. In Teochew communities in Congee, Shantou, and throughout Southeast Asia, this was the meal of every morning and many evenings. It was also the meal of the elderly, of the sick, of anyone whose body needed care without demanding too much from the stomach. Your grandmother made mui because she understood something that no nutrition label has ever captured. Plain food alongside intense food is not a compromise. It is a philosophy. The plain makes the intense possible. The intense makes the plain worth eating. Neither one alone is a meal. Together, they are balance. Number 1. Plain white rice with just enough. Plain white rice measured by knuckle. I know what you are thinking. You are thinking, Jason, plain white rice is not a recipe. And you are correct. It is not a recipe. That is precisely why it is number 1. Your grandmother made plain white rice every day of her adult life. She washed the rice with her hand, feeling the water turn cloudy and then clear. She added water to the pot and measured it against the first knuckle of her index finger above the surface of the rice. Not a measuring cup, but her knuckle. Her specific knuckle. The one that had done this 10,000 times. She knew when the water was right. She knew when the rice was done by the sound of the steam and the smell from the vent of the cooker. She knew which family member wanted their rice from the top of the pot and which wanted it from the bottom where it was slightly crusty and toasted. In every province of China, in every decade of the 20th century, in every Chinese household anywhere in the world, rice was cooked this way. By hand, by memory, by a body that had learned the rhythm so completely that the rhythm was no longer a skill. It was a reflex. The rice was never just rice. It was the meal that said we are together. It was the food that said you came home. It was the thing that sat in the center of the table while everything else orbited it. Every soup, every stir-fry, every braised dish, every steamed thing, all of it existed in service of the rice. The rice was not a side dish. The rice was the point. And the grandmother who made it, who stood at that pot every evening for 40 years measuring water against her knuckle without ever writing it down, She was not just cooking dinner. She was keeping something alive that no restaurant, no recipe app, no cooking video, including this one, can fully replace. She fed you. She fed everyone at the table. She never once measured anything. And she never once got it wrong. Make one of these this week. Just one. Buy a piece of salted fish and make congee. Buy silken tofu and 2 century eggs and take 4 minutes to put something beautiful on a plate. Buy the oldest cucumber in the bin at the Asian grocery store, the yellow one that nobody else wants, and let it sit in a pot of pork bones for 4 hours. Sit down at the table, not the couch. Set a real bowl. Eat slowly, and if your grandmother is still alive, I am telling you right now to call her, not to text her. Call her. Ask her one recipe. One. Ask her how she makes the congee, or the braised pork, or the steamed fish. And when she tells you, write it down. She will not measure anything. Write down what she does with her hands. Those recipes are not in any cookbook. They live in her memory, and her body, and her kitchen, and nowhere else. When she is gone, they go with her. Unless you write them down. Tell me in the comments which of these 25 meals brings back a memory. Tell me if your grandmother measured anything. Tell me if the rice was always perfect. Because I already know it was. These meals deserve to live.